I guess my opinion with tight end is that even though the combine numbers might have separated the top two guys, when you turn on the tape, it just depends on what you're looking for. And I mean, other than Noah Fant, they're all really similar. I mean, on tape, you
I
know.
mean, there's a guy that's been catching my eye out of Georgia, and Isaac Nauta.
Now, what round do you think he would be you look at him in?
I mean, he's kind of like a Mercedes Lewis type. He blocks, but he's that sneaky good receiver.
Well, I mean, is he a fourth round, or would you look at him a third
Oh
round?
no, he's third round 75th.
Third round 75th. And see, there again, that leaves you the availability to go corner, safety, or whatever position you didn't address with the first two picks in the first round.
We had 3 picks before that, so we can wait till the third or fourth round to get a tight end.
Right. And then I had retweeted earlier today, and it was the CBS draft that was all 32 teams. I mean, come on, dude. That was like they traded down. He had him. I mean, he did a lot of trades. I'll give him credit. He did a massive amount of trades, like 246 trades or something. I mean, that's a lot of extra
too
work.
Much for that.
Right. That's a lot of extra work. I mean, that alone. But the Packers trading from 12 down to 16 and only picking up a third round pick in compensation to move down 4 spots when Burns is still on the board. There's all kinds of premier, what we would consider for draft prospects, premier draft prospects.
Well, a lot of these guys, Gutekunst brought in for visit.
Right. And third round just doesn't, given that I know they moved way back last year, it's not enough. Because then later we lose out on Burns. We lose out on some guys that I think are a hell of a lot better than, I hate to say it, than Cody Ford at 16. I think Cody
last year, Gutekunst made the Saints give up a first rounder for the next year's draft to move up maybe 8 spots.
Well, they were no, because we were picking at, I think it was 15.
14, wasn't it?
14, yeah, 14. We moved back to 28.
Yeah, that's what it was. So, okay, 14 spots, and they gave up a first.
A first, it wasn't just a first. It was a first, I believe, a first and a fifth. I think it was a fifth last year and then a first round pick this year. It was more than one pick because of the trade scale moving up 14. But the comp
one being the first.
Right. The rest of the comp was from the draft, was into the draft last year. The first round pick was rolled over, for this year. But they did receive, I think, 2 or 3 picks.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, though. They still got a first, and that's big because the Saints usually never give up anything to the draft.
No. I guess with all the drafts I've seen, I was not impressed with the guys he gave to us. Another guy tweeted me off of my comment about that he had done the RAS, and there was only one guy with an RAS of an 8.25 or higher, and that all the guys, and that all the guys that Gutekunst drafted last year had all of a higher RAS than that, and so none of these guys on this guy's draft board, if dude was doing his research, if you're correlating it together, that dude's completely off, because if he's going off of that RAS stat, that whole draft for that CBS is just completely off base.
If you're going to go off analytics, then you're just going to completely go 180 degrees on it.
Yeah, I don't know. So it wasn't. And I'm not saying he's right or wrong. It just wasn't my favorite mock draft, I guess, to look at. I'm just in love with Burns.
I know it's not popular, but it's just not common.
No, there was just, and then they traded up and got a second round again, and we got and I guess I'm just not, the third round just for me it just seems like a crapshoot anymore.
You need a second rounder at least to move back 4 spots to me if you're gonna, especially having those guys on the board.
I just have a hard time with Brian Burns on the board.
Oh, agreed.
I moving back because
heartbeat and stay there.
Because to me, Burns gives you the flexibility with those guys you signed in free agency. If one of those guys don't work out, I mean, at worst he's
versatility too.
Right, that's what I'm saying. At worst, he's a very versatile third down pass rusher, which is better than not having anybody there again in 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, I just think the risk reward there for moving back and only getting a third is just doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I mean, I know Oliver had a huge pro day, but I'm a huge fan of him at 12.
And see, and I'm not going to argue with you there. I've said it over and over again. I'm sure you've heard this already before. To me, if Burns and Oliver are there as the GM or whoever does it, you walk over to Mike Pettin and you say, fill out the card. And he gives you back the card, you go turn it in. Because to me, at that point, as much as I like Burns, look, Ed Oliver does give you flexibility on the defensive line as well with Zadarius Smith, too.
I mean, even
so I
Daniels
think
in a contract year, you have Oliver, Clark, and Daniel on the same line.
Right, and still with Dean Lowry and Martavis Adams and Lancaster.
Yeah.
I mean, that really becomes... So to me, it's, what does your defensive coordinator want? What toy does your defensive coordinator want? If those two guys are on the board at 12, you give the defensive coordinator...
pressure at the middle.
Right, and so to me, it's like, as much as I like Burns, I feel like let Pettin make the decision. Let him pick his toy, and then he'll... Because to me...
I think that's what they did last year with Alexander.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Because that I think Pettin wanted Alexander. He needs man-to-man corners.
You know, I fell in love with Alexander over his gift. His bird gift that he did in Louisville after he would break up. It reminded me so much of Deion Sanders. And I know I'm not saying he's that caliber player, but just that.
It's just the same type kind of ego a little bit.
And for a cornerback, you need that. That's an unteachable skill that you almost always want in a corner. You know what I mean?
Well, you have to, because if you go up thinking you can barely match up against someone or not have that confidence, you're going to get ran over.
Right. Okay. So then here comes back. We've talked about the edge, and since edge and tight end went, we all know our favorite edge defensive lineman, the tight end thing.
Yeah.
And we are both. Look, I like Hawkinson, and I wouldn't mind Hawkinson at 30. Now, but I don't think Hawkinson. I'm not going to sit here and pound the table for Fant or Hawkinson because I believe you can get a player that's a half notch down in a Steinberger, in an Irv Smith Jr.
Oh, yeah, the Sternberger, yeah.
Right.
I like Sternberger. He reminds me a lot of Finley out of college.
Right. I think those players are all maybe just a half notch down from what.
Well, Irv Smith to me is more complete tight end than Hawkinson. Hawkinson, yes, he's one of the best blockers, but Irv Smith is a receiving threat, and he's a hell of a blocker. How do people think that all these running backs got the edges set in their offense all season?
And what I love about Irv Smith Jr. is the fact that he's an Alabama product tight end, which means dang well he can block, and you know dang well that he is assignment sure and football smart because he wouldn't have been playing.
Saban always has his guys know his stuff.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And so to me, that's why I'm not sold on the whole tight end in the first round because I think those guys. Dave, I'm not knocking Fant and Hawkinson. I'm just saying.
No, they're very talented tight ends,
right.
But they're going to be gone.
Well, even if they're not, to me, I would rather have another defensive lineman. I would rather have a Greedy Williams or one of the.
I'm the same way.
You know, somebody else. Because I just feel like we can get a tight end later.
30, I'm taking it.
Right. I just feel like I can get a tight end that is close to as quality as those guys in the second, third, or fourth round. That's my thoughts on that. That's all.
Yeah, because there's no guys coming out this year that's like Antonio Gates caliber or anything like that.
And as much as they want
Tony
to,
Gonzalez, but there's just nothing of that caliber this year.
Well, and I have compared Hawkinson just because of in my mock I've had him going 8 to Detroit because I've compared him to, and I think
Detroit likes him.
Yeah, and I think they look at him like he's could be their their Gronkowski, even though Gronk is a unique animal, and I think. I don't know if we'll ever see a guy quite like that at that position.
I don't think we will.
He's just the perfect combination of enough size, enough speed, enough athleticism, enough football intelligence, and enough just kind of. And again, I love him. Enough meathead to just make one hell of an awesome football player.
There's a guy that reminds me of him that was last year, and he went to one of the most dangerous offenses, was Dallas Goedert.
Oh, yeah.
I love Goddard.
And you know what? I'm surprised he wasn't on the field as much last year. And
because they have Hurts.
Right. And so it's like, I almost feel like they took him to spite their division rival Dallas Cowboys.
The Cowboys, because they needed a tight end.
They traded up one spot from them and took him when they didn't even need him, really. But it was like, we'll have him on our team just so you don't have him on yours. You know,
if that's one GM, if we didn't have Gutekunst, I would want is Howie Roseman. The guy is a wizard.
Is it Howie Roseman or Jeffrey Lurie?
Oh, I like Roseman. That's just me.
Okay. All right. And then, so we kind of, the tight end thing, you know, we got that going. Safety's been another big one this year. And you brought up Greedy Williams on, I believe it was Monday night when we did our first show together. I like that idea.
I just think if he falls to 12, you got to take him. He's too much talent.
Now, here's a good scenario, Dave. Oliver, Burns, and Greedy Williams are all there. Your other guys, Devin Bush and White, are gone. You know, Quilliam Williams isn't there. So if those three are those guys and they're at the top, who do you take then? I still say you go to Pettin and have him fill out the card. Because it's just, it's who does he want?
To me, if Oliver's there with Williams, I take Oliver.
Okay.
I am in love with Oliver as a player and his athletic ability. Williams is solid as a corner, but I will take Oliver all day long because it will solidify the front seven.
And look, here's my thing. I think I take either Burns or Oliver over Williams at that point because I think the way Pettin's scheme works, I think there's enough corners already in Green Bay, and I think they could, even if they wanted to add depth or whatever later, or even if they get one of these safeties that can play corner and nickel.
Well, I don't think he is corner.
Go ahead.
Huh?
I think Oliver, I guess, to me, Burns and Oliver, I guess I would take Burns then, or Burns or Oliver over Williams, just because I believe that in Pettin's system, there's enough corners there. The defensive line pressure would make up for maybe a little bit lesser of a talent playing corner. The rush is going to get there, move the quarterback off his spot, take a sack, make a hit, something like that. That the coverage doesn't necessarily have to have a bunch of strong alpha male corners to keep it, you know,
if Oliver and Burns are gone, I'll take Williams all day long. But if Oliver and Burns are there or Sweat is there, I'm taking him.
Now, what if somebody really slides down to 30 that you're not seeing there? Let's say there's one of the top tackle guard guys that fall, and let's say God, who's a guy that Sweat? Let's say Sweat falls. Some ungodly reason, just freak scenario. Do you then just trade back and collect because there's going to be so much frenzy there to try to see? That's what I wonder is sometimes when these guys with that 30 pick, if there's somebody that falls and it creates a frenzy, that's a good opportunity for Goonie to really
we're right there at 44 too, so you can grab say if someone wants to throw a second and a third, we're jumping in that back in that first, they'll do it.
Right, and so that. I know a lot of people when they hear me talk about, well, what if this, unlikely scenario happens? They're like, well, you got to draft that guy.
But it happens a ton in the draft. Those unlikelies happen a lot more than people think.
And I guess I just look at it like those are the opportunities when something that big unexpectedly happens. As much as we really want that player, if that many teams are passing on him, there's something up, you know what I mean? And so then you have to take the opportunity. If there's a frenzy for that other teams to get that pick, then you got to give that up. And people are like, well, you're kind of contradicting yourself. No, because if there's enough teams that pass on him and yet people think that they're not going to get to him in the second round, but they value him as a second round pick, 30 isn't reaching. You see what I'm saying?
No, especially when it's only 2 picks.
Right. So there's not this idea that if a GM trades, back into the round to get this player that slid, that, well, geez, he's over. Now he's reaching. No, that's usually where these players tend to go, that fall unexpectedly late in the draft. You know, teams in the second round